It's the George Plaster Show. 30 years of the best sports talk in Middle Tennessee. Featuring Tennessee Radio Hall of Famer George Plaster, Tennessee Sports Hall of Fame coach Watson Brown, and Young Guns Billy Derrick and Michael Cindric. And now, here's your host, George Plaster.
Hello again, everybody. Welcome in and welcome to winter 2023. Man, it is here. It is dark, it's gloomy, and it's cold. But it will get better by the weekend. So with that in mind, we got a really good show for you today. We're going to get into the salary cap that the NFL has announced and what it will mean for the Titans. Terry McCormick will join us around 2:18 to talk about it. But first, we head up to the plateau where Watson Brown looks like he's playing golf. Good-looking Carolina shirt, but I don't think he is.
That's not Carolina blue now. That's more of Kentucky.
Duke blue, yeah.
A Duke or Kentucky blue, George.
Really?
Yeah, that's not a light blue there. You've got the
Okay.
You need to get your eyes checked. It happens with age a little bit, so you might ought to think about that.
It doesn't necessarily have to. I've had 2 cataract surgeries, so we're past some of this.
Well, I was told the next time I go, that'll be me. So,
Really?
yeah. Well, how was it? Not too bad?
Honestly, it was a piece of cake.
Okay.
I hope it will be for you.
Me too. Because I don't like any kind of stuff around my eyes now. Mm-mm.
Yeah. But no golf for a while.
Shoot. You get any ice yet?
They're talking later tonight, like about 10 o'clock.
Okay, that's us. So we're on the same. Okay.
You might get a little more than we do
Right.
up there on the plateau. That's why it is the plateau.
The plateau.
Let's say hello to Billy Derrick. Billy, how are you?
George, I'm good. I look tan now.
It looks like you've adjusted some things. You were very pale. I was worried about you.
Well, it looks like he at least crawled out of the casket.
Wow.
He looks a little better, but he still don't look like he's got tan.
Right.
There's only so much work I could do to make it look good.
Right. So you got rid of the embalming fluid.
Yeah.
Okay, that's good. That's good. Let's say this. Watson was the one who really threw the cheap shot there.
Early cheap
That
shot.
was
Yeah.
an early one from Watson.
Mhm. Oh, it's happened before.
Coming out swinging today.
Mostly aimed at me. And Michael, how are you today?
Oh, just doing fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
Doing great. No complaints here, George.
Really?
Absolutely.
Well, that's wonderful. So let's get then to the award-winning update that has some pretty good meat on the bone.
It sure does, George. We got a loaded update. Vandy's back in action tonight in Tuscaloosa against number 4 Alabama. The Tide are a whopping 15.5-point favorite tonight. I don't think that surprises anybody, but they'll play tonight at 7:30. Both teams are coming off losses. Alabama by nearly 30 on the road against Oklahoma, and Vandy lost a close one in a game that we talked earlier, George. They probably should have won that
They
game.
should have won. I mean, you got a 9-point lead in the second half. It's time to close the deal.
You give them a chance tonight?
No, probably not. I mean, I would assume that,
They'll
They'll
keep
This
it
was-
close.
yeah, they probably will, but this ought to be a big wake-up call for Bama. They looked like crap against Oklahoma.
Yeah, you would think, but they also, if you remember too, they didn't look very good against Missouri the night before they played, or a couple nights before they played Oklahoma. So maybe there's something going on a little bit, little midseason slump. I don't know.
Who knows? We'll see.
This is not a good time to play them.
No, not the best time. I feel like Vandy gets caught.
I've got to believe that Nate Oates got their attention.
I wouldn't be surprised. George, Brock Purdy, the latest on his injury has come down in the first quarter of Sunday's game. He suffered a torn ulnar collateral ligament in his right elbow that will keep him out for 6 months. And based on that timeline, he could return around the start of training camp. So I think that injury turned out to be a little bit worse than a lot of people might have even thought after it.
So, Watson, do they then say to Jimmy G, absence makes the heart grow fonder?
Well, first, you got to feel for Purdy, man. I mean, he is just about to get him a contract, and then boom, this happens to him. Coach, that's real close to being real serious. When you get that surgery, you're right at the Tommy John surgery. You're just one piece from Tommy John. And I'll be surprised if he's back in 6 months. He'll be pushing it to be back throwing full speed in camp with everybody else in 6 months. It's a very serious surgery. And anybody that thought he didn't have enough to go back in the game and have enough guts to go back in the game, you got to eat those words now.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a very serious surgery. And that's amazing he even went back in the game, tell you the truth, through a little delay, tight end delay, and a 5-yard option route. I don't know how he threw those.
Yeah, he's seeking additional medical opinions about whether he needs surgery, but the injury is expected to sideline him for 6 months, regardless of his decision. So
he'd come back quicker, probably, Billy, with surgery, tell you the truth.
Yeah. Surgery or not, he'll be out for a while, and we'll see what his future.
Isn't that rotten luck, guys? You're talking about rotten luck.
Terrible.
Good gracious.
He deserves nothing but praise from the San Francisco fan base for what he was able to do. I mean, and I'm sure he's going to get that, but it's just weird because we really are just speculating on what the San Francisco quarterback situation is going to look like next year. But man, that guy deserves a lot of credit for what he was able to do. His third string quarterback rookie just stepping in like that, and man, just what he was able to do was
better
amazing.
Than they had any right to expect.
Man, it was amazing. He just deserves nothing but a win.
And how good is he? He had a chance to really prove it in the this past weekend Super Bowl.
Yeah.
But this could open up a real conversation about Tom Brady. I'm telling you, being from the Bay Area, come and play a year, 2 at the most. Let Purdy be the backup, give him time to grow, and trade the other 2 guys for some pretty good stuff. That's a possibility. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but
I think a lot of people think that.
An NFL exec today, Watson, came out. He was anonymous, but basically said that exact situation you were talking about.
Did he?
Bring Brady in for a year, Purdy, and guess who he had old Trey Lance going to?
Titans.
The Titans.
That's what I'd say, just because of who's here. He's the one that
Arthon.
He's the one that basically I heard was the final and drafting him. So he's got to feel real strong about him. And the Titans, guys, I'm getting ahead, George, quick, but the Titans, to me, this is a big quarterback decision because look at all the great quarterbacks around them. They got to be sitting there saying, how are we going to win a Super Bowl if we don't get one of these? We've got to get a guy of this caliber. Even if Ryan comes back, he's 35, 36 years old. I just wonder if that's still not in the works more than we think it is.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of quarterbacks, Tyler Huntley is headed to the Pro Bowl.
What a joke.
He was added as a 4th alternate to replace Josh Allen, becoming one of the most unlikely participants ever in the Pro Bowl. He threw just 2 touchdown passes this season, the fewest by far for a Pro Bowl quarterback since the 1970 merger. The previous low was 6 touchdown passes by Philadelphia quarterback Mike Barilla?
Something like that.
Look, in 1975.
I've done some pretty serious investigative work on this story. Watson, do you know who the 5th alternate was?
Oh, here we go.
JT Daniels.
That's a good one.
I don't know that I could beat that one.
Oh, that's pretty good.
Pretty
Flacco.
good, Billy. Quick on your feet there, bud.
Oh boy, Billy.
Joe Flacco.
George, let me ask this, since we're not unfamiliar with betting and odds. What do you think the odds would have been at the beginning of the season for Tyler Huntley to be a Pro Bowler?
I mean, first of all,
plus
they wouldn't have been available.
This guy is no Pro Bowler. What a joke.
Well, second thing, this ought to make the NFL look in the mirror and say, we got to take a look at this, man.
Yeah.
What are we doing here?
I mean,
what's the point of the Pro Bowl anymore?
There is no point other than what I brought up yesterday. It's what city can we fleece for ticket sales? What network can we pawn this off on and say, here's a little carrot for you? You know what? Ready?
You know what?
God.
You're going to bet. You're still going to bet it.
No.
The Pro Bowl games,
No.
is that going to be available?
Oh, don't act
No.
like you're above. Don't
no.
act like you're above that.
No. No.
You will be checking the line
You
on
have to
that.
have some standard that we draw the line right there.
You got the
George,
AFC or the
doesn't
NFC?
bet, does he?
No.
George only play bets, right, Michael? He don't bet.
That's right. He just writes them down for fun. To
Yeah,
see
he
who
just
would've been
plays
right.
bet on the air. He don't bet.
You know what? On the air, I'm doing pretty good.
I ain't asking off the air.
No need to.
I ain't going there. I know you're not rich, so you ain't doing too good.
Moving right along.
As we move along here, George, Washington Huskies offensive coordinator Ryan Grubb has reportedly turned down an opportunity to become Alabama's OC this week after he was offered the job by Nick Saban. So maybe he doesn't want to deal with old Saban.
So, Watson, what do you think went on there?
Just philosophically, I don't think they match. He's a pass, run guy. He's got the great quarterback coming back that he can coach at Washington. I just think when they sit and talk philosophically, I don't think it matched.
Does it surprise you at all that he is a pass guy? And I would have guessed that they would be someone a little bit less pass happy than Bill O'Brien. Just with Alabama, hadn't been able to have a great running game the last couple of years.
I just think Nick's never going to let that leave him. He's going to, whoever he hires, he's going to demand they run the ball well.
Mm-hmm.
That's just Nick. It's the way he's been. He's an old timer and he hadn't changed. He's changed, but he hasn't left that piece.
They hadn't been able to run.
He knows, Michael, his best teams, they've always run the ball well. His best teams.
Right.
They've been able to run the football. And I personally think that's why they couldn't get there this year. They have a good back, but he's not a power back, and their offensive line wasn't anything like I've seen them have in the past. So I think that's what kept them from getting to the Final Four is they couldn't run the football. And I know he's wanting to get back to that.
Switching over to college basketball here, a Michigan State player, cornerback Kari Crump, was sentenced to probation as part of a plea agreement for his involvement in an assault on the Michigan player in the Michigan Stadium tunnel back on October 29th. So kind of strange how that lasted so long, just now coming out that he's sentenced to probation. So obviously a terrible situation. I don't know that we've ever seen something like that.
Awful.
After a game. So that's the news there. George, last one here. NFL ratings have come out for the weekend. The Eagles in San Fran, 47.5 million viewers.
Surprised that one was that high.
Mm-hmm.
And then Cincy and KC, 53.1 million. So
not surprised. That's the largest conference title game, I want to say this right, ratings in the last 4 years.
Wow.
So there
you have it.
There's got to be a bunch of degenerate gamblers that had to see if they were going to cover or not. That's the only explanation for that NFC game.
Well, you had the two best quarterbacks in the league playing each other, guys. If you're going to get the eyeballs, that's when it's going to happen.
Yep.
Okay, after the break, Terry McCormick's going to join us. By the way, Billy, he says he needs a link.
Oh, really?
Yes, he does.
Man, my bad.
Yeah, no problem. You were busy getting all that makeup on.
Yeah.
So anyway, Terry's going to join us. We'll get into a variety of things with the salary cap. What does this mean for the Titans? And we're also going to show you exactly where they are right now because it ain't great. Stick around. We got plenty more coming.
How am I going to get to work? My car's totaled.
Skylar, our team is making a call right now. We'll get you a rental car. Don't worry.
That's a relief.
Call us 24/7. We're here. We're going to help.
Once the All-Star game is over, the Nashville Predators will have another of their college nights. Tuesday, February the 7th, Tennessee State University front and center stage when the Vegas Golden Knights come to town. Students, alumni, and fans are invited to celebrate. The College Night Series ticket package includes a Predator game ticket and a limited edition co-branded hat. Tickets can be purchased at NashvillePredators.com/college nights.
As the trusted premier custom home builder in Middle Tennessee, Donnelly Timmons has over 20 years of experience in the industry. Whether you're looking to build your dream home or renovate your current home, their team will ensure that every client and every remodel is unique, luxurious, and completed on time within budget. Founders Dustin Timmons and Joey Donnelly have over 25 years of construction experience in the Nashville area. Together, they have completed projects in Forest Hills, Oak Hill, Green Hills, Franklin, and Brentwood. Dustin and Joey believe that communication is the most important aspect of all construction projects. Therefore, they personally manage each project themselves and are involved in job site activities on a daily basis. Their commitment to quality and integrity has earned them an outstanding reputation among their clients. Contact them to set an appointment for a free consultation or to view some of their completed projects. Give them a call at 615-456-7983 or log on to DonnellyTimmons.com.
Okay, let's give you the facts on the salary cap. This all came out yesterday, right after we got off the air. It will be a record $224.8 million, growing by $16.6 million from a year ago, and nobody around this is surprised at all. This was very much expected. Let's bring in Terry McCormick from Main Street Media, and he joins us from his palatial office. Terry, how are you?
I'm doing well. How are you guys?
Excellent. Excellent. So your first reaction on this news and what you think this means for the Titans?
Well, I think, such a salary cap increase as they got here is going to give them an opportunity to make it a little easier. I think this was kind of where it was projected to go, but it's going to give them the ability to get out of cap jail, so to speak, with just a handful of moves that they can make. And not only that, but also free up a little space for them to go and start filling the holes that are on this roster.
We're going to show right now a graphic of where all this stuff is. Chicago, by a mile, has more cap room than anybody, almost 91 million. That's a bunch. Atlanta is second in the 50s. And then look at the Titans. They are 23 million at the moment to the minus of the salary cap. And Terry, so let me get you to speculate here. In your opinion, how do they get on the right side of the cap? What moves do they make to get there?
Well, they can make two moves to get just about even square, and then two more to create some cap space here. And these are without moving, anybody and making them a post-June 1 cut to spread the cap hit over 2 years. If they choose to do that, I think they can do that with no more than two players. Some people have speculated that if they move on from Ryan Tannehill, that they would make him a post-June 1 cut to make that $36 million cap hit that they would absorb by releasing him a little softer. So, that would be that. But the four guys that right there on the graphic, Taylor Lewan is scheduled to make nearly $15 million against the cap. He can be released and there not be any cap charge, no dead money to let him go. Taylor basically has speculated as much, I think, on his podcast and with a couple of interviews that he's probably going to be let go by the Titans, and he's going to have to figure out what the next chapter is, whether he wants to continue to play football or if he wants to pursue other things.
Terry, he told me he'd like to come back here.
Well, there's a possibility if he does come back that they would cut him and then re-sign him. to a more incentive-laden deal to something that is certainly more cap friendly. But I think the thing of it is, I mean, it's kind of a situation where under normal circumstances, you'd say a guy who's missed 2 of the last 3 seasons with a torn ACL on the same knee wouldn't have much value to you, if any, especially at nearly $15 million on the cap. But the Titans' offensive line was so bad without him. I mean, the drop off from Taylor Lewan to Dennis Daly, was Grand Canyon size. And so I think when you look at it that way, maybe the Titans would entertain the idea of bringing Taylor Lewan back on a more cap friendly deal, but moving on from this $15 million nearly that he is due in 2023.
Give me the rest of what you think they'd have to do.
Well, Bud Dupree. Now, he has, had to be accounted for when he's been out there. But a lot like Lewan, he hasn't been out there. He's played in 11 games each of the last 2 years. The first one was coming off the ACL injury. This year, he was nicked up with some hip injuries and some other things that were going on with him, a chest injury at the end of the year that put him on injured reserve. He's missed 6 games in each of the last 2 years. For $82.5 million, which was the package they gave him over 5 years, that's not good enough. So I would expect them to release Bud Dupree as part of this salary cap purge they're going to have to do. The others, Zach Cunningham, they claimed his contract from Houston. I think they may have done just a little bit of reworking on it. I don't know that for sure. But nonetheless, he's set to count, I think, $10 million or so against the cap. They can release him, and I believe it's going to save around $9 million if they do that. And then Robert Woods signed him or traded for him from the Rams last offseason. They actually reworked his contract to get a little bit of cap relief in one of the final moves that John Robinson made before he was fired. And Robert Woods is scheduled to count over $10 million against the cap. So even though he led the team with 51 catches, only had 527 yards receiving. So you can't afford to pay that much to a possession receiver. If you're going to give that kind of money out to wide receivers, they got to be game breakers. And Robert Woods is not that.
So, Terry, speculate for me. How many millions under the cap do you think they need to be to address their most pressing needs?
Well, these moves would get them about 20 million or so under the cap, 21 million under the cap. You can make some moves with 21 million under the cap, especially if you extend Jeffrey Simmons and get a nice low number in the first year or two of his base and spreading the signing bonus out and all that. So you could create a little bit more cap space there and lock up your best defensive player by doing so. So that could give them maybe, another 25, 30 million total if they're able to extend Jeffrey Simmons this offseason and not have to ride out his contract on a 5th-year option. So I think, if they can get $30 to $35 million, then they should be able to structure deals in a way that they can fill the holes that are on this roster. Because think about this too, George. Not only are you going to have to fix the offensive line and fix the wide receiver position, you're also going to have to fill the other holes that you're creating by showing these guys the door.
Okay, a lot of questions to get to. So, Watson, you get all this started.
I really wonder, Terry, now that I'm looking at it and seeing this whole picture, that I wonder if there's not going to be a big let go here and kind of not start over, but regroup and start in a different direction. I wonder if that's not why John Robinson was let go, that they just sit there and they see toward not just right when they did it, but to say, we need to get a guy in here fast. We need to redo this. Our cap space is awful. We need to start in a different direction. And I really wonder if they just said, let's bring in another guy, let him have it with help, and let's head in another direction here. Not to change your whole team, but I just wonder if that really wasn't what went down here.
I guess that's possible, because, you look at the cap situation, and right now it's certainly not pretty, not very enviable, especially given the Titans' 7-10 record. If you're spending money like they are and you've got cap problems like they do, you'd want to be playing at least in a conference championship game, if not a Super Bowl, so you'd have something to show for that. But obviously this year, with all the problems that they had with injuries and lack of playmakers, lack of protection, it certainly would send a signal that you need to go a bit of a different direction. Now, the question is, Watson, how sharp of a turn in another direction do you want to go? Do you want to get rid of Derrick Henry? Do you want to get rid of Ryan Tannehill, burn it to the ground completely and start over? Or do you just want to lop off the dead weight, so to speak, and try to infuse it with some talent from the draft and maybe some guys who in free agency who maybe have some upside and can be had at a reasonable rate, and then maybe make a splash or two at a position of need, such as receiver or cornerback or left tackle?
I just wonder if 21 million if we got to that's enough to really change it. I read where if we got rid of Randy Bullock, Zach Cunningham, Bud Dupree, Jamarco Jones, Taylor Lewan, Robert Woods, and Ryan Tannehill, we would have $43 million to the good in cap space. Now that to me, and of the ones I just named, one guy, Ryan Tannehill, is the one I wonder about. But everybody else of those, they've really not been great players. They've been injured a bunch. I listened to what Mike said. Hey, we got to take a look at all these guys that are injured every year. Bud Dupree's played 11 games and missed 12, and he's cost us that kind of money. Zach Cunningham has missed games out the gazoo since he came back. I mean, I just wonder if they get rid of all these. $43 million, you can do a lot of damage, that a lot more than $21 million would do. So I'm anxious to watch this, Terry. I'm not sure they're not going farther than we think they are.
You might be right. I mean, Tannehill is the big key there. How much do you feel like he has left? How much do you feel like, that you can move with Ryan Tannehill? If you feel like that if you put a good team around him and you put skilled players around him, the caliber of what he had in 2019 and 2020, can he return to that level of play? If you think he can, then maybe you extend his deal and, make his cap figure a little bit less. If you think his best days are behind him, then you're probably better off to move on. Now, one of the things that's been floating around out there has been a trade. People are trying to connect the dots with Rand Carthon having come from San Francisco and the 49ers situation, which obviously was made a little cloudier by Brock Purdy's injury that's going to keep him out for an extended period of time, maybe not even completely ready for camp next year. But had the 49ers been able to say Brock Purdy is our guy going forward, there were people who thought that Trey Lance might get dangled out there as trade bait and that Rand Carthon and the Titans might bite on a young quarterback who was drafted very high but has yet to prove anything in the league because, one, he came from a small school. Does that sound familiar? And two, he's been injured. Does that sound familiar? To me, that move doesn't make a whole lot of sense because I think if the window of opportunity, if you're not closing the window of opportunity here and you're not going through a complete rebuild, then you need a quarterback who has a little bit of a proven track record. Trey Lance might turn out to be great, but thus far, he's not been a whole lot better than Malik Willis was, guys.
I think, Terry, to me, they're looking around in the AFC and seeing all these quarterbacks, all these young quarterbacks that are what they are. They are sitting there saying, we've got to get our next quarterback. I don't know that it's this year or 2 years from now, but that's got to be in the back of their mind. How are we going to pass all these people if we don't have one of those kind of guys? And I'm not talking about one of them. I'm just saying the next quarterback to me is the franchise here. It's because these guys are all going to play for a while now. They're all in their 20s. These are guys. And Ryan Tannehill's 35, 36. I mean, I just think – I'm not saying they're going to do it this year, but there has got to be, the first plan to me is, where are we getting our next quarterback for the next 8 years of our dealings here? Where are we getting our next guy to match these guys we're going to play against every single year? And I'd be nervous about it. And again, I'm not sure that's not why. Let's get John out. Let's get a new face in here. Get us some more ideas, because I think that Mike Vrabel is smart enough to say, "Ooh, we're being caught here." And
they've been passed.
I think the boss is sitting there behind the scenes saying the same thing. They will never admit that, Terry, but I think that's what's in their head.
You're probably right. I mean, there's no doubt that Ryan Tannehill, if he comes back, is a short-term solution. Ryan Tannehill is he said that he feels like he's got a lot of gas left in the tank, but truthfully, if he has 2 more productive seasons and you're the Titans, that's probably about as good as you could hope for. That's probably about as good as you could hope for with Derrick Henry, too, to have 2 to 3 more productive seasons. That's why you're exactly right in that they've got to find the next guy to build this offense around. Might not come this year, but every year that they haven't solved the quarterback position long-term with the next guy, that's another year that Joe Burrow's getting better. That's another year that Patrick Mahomes is getting better. That's another year that Josh Allen is getting better, that Justin Herbert's getting better, and right here in your own division where Trevor Lawrence is getting better.
No, it's scary. Quickly, one more, George, if you want me to get to Michael, but the other thing to me is the names that I named, and you heard them all, and you've been saying a lot of the same ones. Not one of those is going to hurt this football team, in my opinion, except Ryan Tannehill. That's the only one I named where you got a question mark. Do we now or do we later? And I think what I think they'll do with him if they keep him, they're going to restructure him, because Ryan knows he's no hot commodity anymore. And I think if they go and restructure him and knock his cap space down, then they'll keep him. But if I'm them, I'd let every one of those go before June 1, and I'd get that money in, because I think they need money, Terry. I'm not sure $21 million will get them up to speed where they can beat these teams that we're seeing here that are passing them by with young players, none of these teams are old teams. All of them are young football teams, and I'm telling you, the Titans are older and have been banged up big time. So it's exciting to me. I'll be disappointed if they don't do that. I think that's the route they got to go.
Yeah, I think you have to move on from every one of those players except perhaps Tannehill. To me, that's the only one that you're looking at and going, well, he might be our best option for 2023. So, those others, that you named, that I named, absolutely, I think it's time that they move on from those guys and find younger, cheaper, faster replacements.
Terry, it's interesting to look at that graphic that Billy put up there with the Titans being 23 in the hole, and to almost go back a little bit and look at the A.J. Brown contract, and how that was the reason that the Titans really couldn't keep him. When you look at, it's amazing to see them how in the hole they are, and they didn't even pay A.J. Brown. Was it ever possible for them to get him paid? What would have had to happen?
Well, they probably would have had to restructure a lot of different guys that you're seeing. They probably could have gotten AJ's deal structured in a way where he would have had a very low cap hit for this year and next year. There's always a way to make it work. It's just a matter of, what can you sacrifice here? It's robbing Peter to pay Paul, so to speak, Michael. It's one of those deals where I may have to take a little bit of money away here in order to give it over here. But that's how the NFL works. And that's what you have to do to keep your best players. And that's what the Titans didn't do when it came to A.J. Brown.
Terry, this is a dumb question, but I want to understand it because I've seen this get thrown around a bunch. And part of me,
I've heard that before.
Feel like I get, part of me feels like I get different answers every time. What is dead money? Can you explain that?
Okay. Dead money it's not a dumb question because a lot of people wonder what that is. Dead money is money that is left on a contract that you gave a player, that you guaranteed him, that you're having to give him, that he is no longer on your roster. If you sign a guy, let's say you sign a guy to a $20 million deal, and it's set up so that he gets a $5 million signing bonus, and then for each of the 4 years of the deal, he's getting $4 million or whatever. And so if you cut the guy after the second year and there's $8 million left from 2023 and 2024 that you gave him that isn't fulfilled, that becomes dead money on the cap.
Let me help with that.
Yeah.
When they close the casket, if the money is still in there, it's dead money.
Wow.
Thank
you,
There
George.
you go, George.
Boom.
Terry, I got
A little
one more
cold,
for you.
wasn't it?
Yeah. I got one more.
Watson, did you want to say something there?
No, I just said that's 2 casket deals we've talked about today.
Yeah, what's going on? Terry,
Bad
one more
sign.
for you. What's the Titans cap space look like potentially next year if Tannehill's off the books and Derrick Henry's off the books? How much is that going to clear up?
Tannehill right now would cost them, I think he has a $36 million cap hit. And if they cut him, he would be $27 million of dead money. The good news is Tannehill's contract is up after this year. If they do nothing and his contract is up, they would be out from under that in 2024. And their cap situation for 2024, I don't know the exact numbers because I haven't looked at it, but it's actually looks like it would be pretty decent depending on, what kind of moves they make. Obviously, this offseason that would affect it.
So, Terry, as we sort of end this, just your gut feeling, your sense of what's been going on, do you put a ton of validity into this Trey Lance stuff, or you'll believe it when you see it?
I mean, I guess it all depends on what direction Rand Carthon wants to go. And I haven't obviously, he's brand new to the job. Haven't really had a chance to sit down and talk with him or ask a whole lot of questions of him beyond the introductory press conference. So I kind of get the feeling that, he's coming in and he wants to, just kind of assess everything and see where it's going before he makes any decisions. It is a rumor, Trey Lance would still be on a rookie contract, but if I'm the Titans and I make a trade for Trey Lance, I'm certainly not putting all my eggs in that basket with a guy coming off an injury and a guy who came from a 1AA school, because that, we saw that Malik Willis wasn't ready to play right away. And Trey Lance, now he sat for 1 year and played sparingly as a rookie. Did okay, not great. And then last year, as he was set to be the starting quarterback, got hurt, I believe, in either the first or second game of the season, missed the whole year. So he's going into year 3, and you still really don't know what he is or what you have in him. So therefore, if I'm the Titans, his trade value is probably as low as it would ever be. So I'm not offering a whole lot to bring him in here, but I'm also going to have a little bit of insurance in case he A, gets hurt, or B, isn't ready to go.
Terry, real quickly in 30, 45 seconds. So Ryan Tannehill, it's hard to gauge because he's not here much in the off season. Does he really want to be here, or is it whatever?
I think he really wants to be here because he knows if he's here, he's this team's starting quarterback. The way the league is going right now, I don't know that he could find another situation, except maybe if he went to Atlanta with Arthur Smith, where he could just walk right into a system that fits him and be able to start right away and not have any glitches or anything like that of having to learn a new system and all. So to me, I think Ryan Tannehill's best option is right here, and I think he knows that.
Okay, when does a Tannehill decision have to come? What's on the calendar? What do we got to look for?
Well, if they cut him, I think it would come post June 1st. But you'll get hints of that. If he's not around for the offseason program, if he's not around for OTAs, if he's been told to stay away, then you'll know that the writing is on the wall and they're releasing him. If he's here, if he's participating fully, if he's leading his guys, he's throwing with the receivers in these outside off-season sessions and gathering up the guys and calling them up and saying, come down to South Florida and let's go throw, then you'll know they have plans for him.
Okay. Excellent stuff, Terry. Thank you as always.
All right. Have a good one.
That's Terry McCormick, Main Street Media, giving us the very latest on what's going on. Yeah, what the heck? That's a daily Titans update.
What the heck? Even though it's when's the last time we did this?
It's been several weeks.
It's been several weeks, but that was Terry McCormick's Daily Titans update, brought to you by Hit After Hit, the official shirt provider of the Plaster and Friends Celebrity Bowling Night. Give them a call at 615-399-2287 or log on to hitafterhitonline.com.
Okay, after the break, we're going to get into a little ACC football. They released a new schedule with new stuff, and I guess I wonder, is the SEC watching? I know it's getting colder. You're not thinking about golf. However, if you're planning an event for next year, let me suggest golf through Riverside Golf Links. The course has improved dramatically. It's perfect for hosting a corporate or a charitable outing. They've got everything in place to make your event a rousing success. To get more info, call 615-847-5074 or go online to riversidegolflinks.com.
Hockey in Music City just hits different. It's one big honky-tonk party. It's the sea of gold in the crowd. The goals, the saves, the celebrations. It's an experience like no other. Don't miss a minute of the action this season. Visit NashvillePredators.com/tickets to get your seats today. That's NashvillePredators.com/tickets. And we'll see you at Bridgestone Arena.
Jody Jones has as nice a dental facility as you'll find anywhere. Let's go in and take a look. Are you in the market for a new dentist? Maybe you're new to Nashville? Well, the place to go is Jody Jones Dentistry at 55 Music Square East, and their new facility is absolutely state-of-the-art. Jody mixes quality with comfort for the perfect dental experience. He's trusted for his creative design and committed to both the function and aesthetics of your smile. Jody is simply the total package. Don't wait. Make an appointment now at 615-259-5100. So here was another story that got out late yesterday afternoon. It involves the Atlantic Coast Conference, and they announced their football schedule for next year. And here's the way they're going to start doing it. Every program will play 3 primary opponents annually and face the other 10 league teams twice during the upcoming 4-year cycle, once at home, once on the road. So, Watson, you got the SEC that really has not declared a lot other than Texas and Oklahoma are coming at a date to be determined. Does any of what the ACC did at all apply to the SEC down the road?
I think the ACC is copying the SEC and the Big Ten, because this is all I've heard for a year, that they're going to do away with divisions, both mega conferences are, and just have this just like this. And I think the ACC has done it before the other two do, because they know they can. They're not adding teams. And so they go ahead and start it this year. This is what's going to happen in the big ones. Now, I don't know about the Pac-12, but I wouldn't doubt everybody going to this. What I think they're trying to do is be fair. One division's tougher than the other, then blah, 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 blah. And this one gets left out because they can't win their division because this team is just too good. Well, if Tennessee had been in the other one, they would have won that division. LSU wouldn't have. You get all of that talk, George, and I think this is already in the works, and I think they're beating the posse. They know it's going to happen in these other conferences. I think it's absolutely the right thing to do.
Michael, they've already done it. I'm sorry, Watson. Go ahead.
Well, no, I was just going to say I'm prejudiced because this is the way I grew up. There weren't divisions. When I coached in the SEC, there was no such thing. You played everybody. It rotated. You had a couple of teams you always played. One of ours happened to be Alabama. We played Alabama every year at Vanderbilt. We played Tennessee every year at Vanderbilt. We played Kentucky every year at Vanderbilt. And it rolled. The other ones this has already been done without knowing you were doing it. It's what I'm trying to say. And I think it's very fair. They're making these mega conferences. They're going to 12 teams so they can tell Oklahoma, you may not win you may finish fifth in the group, but you're getting in. You'll get in as the fifth place team. And I think they had to tell Oklahoma and Texas that. The Big Ten had to tell Southern Cal and UCLA that, so that they would jump in and not be left out in these playoffs. And that's why they fought so hard to get to a 12-team playoff, George. It all fits together, in my personal opinion.
Michael, they've already done this in the SEC in basketball. Now, the one thing Watson left out was when he and I were growing up, you could fit all the league teams' standings on one page.
Yeah.
Now you have to go see page 2. And then you get to the last 4 that are going to play on Wednesday in hoops, see page 3. That's what's different.
Well, the super conference is going to make it a dang dictionary. It's going to, there's going to have to be a table of contents for where we want to get to. It's going to be crazy.
The postseason basketball tournament is a 2-week event.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So, but yeah, I like it. I mean, I do. I like it I think that, Clemson's kind of ran the ACC the last couple of years. They've been pretty dominant for the most part. And I like that in the ACC title game, they're going to get the next best team, instead of sometimes it's in their division, sometimes it's not. So I think it's the right move. I really do. It's interesting how they decided the 3 teams that each team is going to play every year. I think there's a couple matchups that I need to look at it, but there are a couple matchups that I know a couple fans were upset that they're not there every year. But that is interesting how you decide kind of the rivalries and which ones you want to play.
So, Watson, in the SEC, let's just take Tennessee for a minute. Everybody's going to be lobbying certain things. I'm going to assume that Tennessee's 3 would be, well, let me ask this. Is the SEC going to go to 3 permanents?
That's what I've been told. Yes, yeah. They will do a 3 permanent and then rotate everybody else. And there's already, from what I'm hearing, there's already arguments over who the permanents are.
That's what's going to be.
Who they're going to be.
Is the SEC especially is where it's going to be really interesting.
I think Vanderbilt absolutely will be with Tennessee, but then the other 2, I'm not sure. And Kentucky will feel like they should be with Tennessee, and they may not end up with Tennessee. They may not. Alabama and Tennessee have played first Saturday in November forever. I think Alabama and Tennessee will be. And then who's the third one with Tennessee?
Florida.
Maybe it's Florida. Maybe it's Kentucky. This is where it's going to get interesting.
Yep.
But you're going to play every 2 years anyway. So it's not like it's going to disappear now. I mean, in the way it is now, you might not play the other side for 6 years. Right. Play somebody on the other side for 6 years. It's the way I'm understanding, it's going to be every 2 years you play everybody. You've played everybody going into the 3rd year. You rotate it right back. So you're going to catch everybody. You're going to complete change your schedule after 2 years. And then you're going to play another group of them 2 years home and home. Then it goes back to the other group again. So it's not going to disappear.
Yeah.
You got to say Texas. Who's it going to be with Texas? Well, I think it's most definitely Oklahoma. That's been there, and I think it'll be Texas A&M. That'll be 2 of their 3. Now, who's the third one? In the old days, you would have said Arkansas. I think it might be LSU that falls into that group because they're not that far apart right there. And so I don't know. It's going to be real interesting. But what I'm hearing, Michael, is the biggest argument right now as they put all this together is who are your 3
right
your three naturals that you're going to play. And I'm hearing it's the third one that's the problem. Mm-hmm. Pretty much they're hitting on the first two. Of course, Tennessee's begging for Vanderbilt to be on there. There's no doubt about that. I'd say everybody's begging for Vanderbilt to be one of their three. But I'm hearing it's the third one that's really throwing everybody into a tizzy.
So who do you do for Alabama? Would it be Auburn, LSU, Tennessee?
I think it's Auburn and Tennessee.
Not LSU.
And then I don't know about the third one. I think there'll be all kind of arguments. That's what I'm saying. You can pretty much put two teams with everybody.
Yeah.
You pretty much can. But then that third one gets really, really interesting.
That's the thing. You're going to have fans barking about this. We need that rivalry. We can't have, we got to play Alabama. We got to play this team. But there's coaches out there that are going to be, thank God we don't, we get a break with them.
Billy, I like your natural country accent.
You like
it when as a fan.
We
got to play Alabama.
This is going to upset a lot of fans. But I guarantee you, there's some coaches and players that might be a little relieved they get a break with that team for a year.
Billy, I'm going to tell you what's going to upset fans. When you do this with these two mega conferences, there are going to be a bunch of 5 and 4s and 6 and 3s coming out of this.
Yep.
And it's going to tick off those fans in Oklahoma, Texas, Auburn, LSU, Florida. They're not used to losing games like that. I mean, most of the times right now, the SEC has got it made. They play 8 games at home, and they play 4 non-conference games on the road. So, I mean, then you've got your 4 gimmies that you play outside the conference. So everybody is up here in this 9-3, 8-4, 10-2. That's fixing to change, man. It's fixing to change, and the fans are not going to like it when it goes down.
Watson, people are going to be praying for 8 and 4 in the new SEC. They're going to be praying for it.
I think that's right. I think they'll go to 9 games in the SEC. I think they're going to drop off another non-conference game. Yeah. Go to 9, and it's going to add another loss to a lot of people.
The gauntlet.
Texas, by the way, has a press release that they're waiting to put out claiming that A&M's a cow college and that we're not lowering ourselves to playing them.
That's ridiculous.
Well, they get ready. They're going to.
But, I mean, that was sort of their snotty attitude.
Oh, yeah.
About not playing them anymore. They're a cow college. They're beneath us.
Well, some of that too is from Texas A&M. Their whole "we're in the SEC now" has just rubbed everyone.
Well, it just means more.
It just means exactly right. People are fed up with that.
The Big 12 hates that.
Oh, they hate it. They hate it. A&M was in the SEC for like 2 years, saying how we're in the our conference is winning national titles. Everyone ticked everyone off.
And honestly, Michael, it worked because they started killing Texas in recruiting.
Mm-hmm.
Texas made a major fall off when A&M got into the SEC. They started losing a lot of players to A&M that they've never lost to them before.
Yep.
And I think that's one of the main reasons Texas says we ain't got no choice here. We got to go. The money is much better than what we're dealing with, and we're getting killed by A&M in recruiting right now. We got to go.
Yep.
Okay. After the break, we have stat of the day. We need a bounce back on stat of the day.
That was a tough one yesterday.
It was. The thinking cap wasn't working.
Well, we got it right. You want to.
Oh, you got it right.
Well, but are we not a team? Can't you say, man, we did good yesterday?
We kicked butt.
Yeah, but you didn't just say that. Well, we got to regroup and get better than we did yesterday. So I don't count, right? So if I get one, the heck with that. That don't matter. I mean, geez, man, when did you just throw me to the put me on the curb? That's all
You're the one that said that Billy was embalmed. I mean, you started all the cheap shots today. We'll go to the break, and we'll be back, I think.
That is hilarious.
Hey, thank you for meeting with me today. The insurance company has made an offer.
Oh,
Already? Wow.
They've offered you the entire policy.
Thank you, Blair.
You're so welcome.
Forget the fact that Sir Speedy Music City is owned by my BGA classmate James Warren. Their work stands on its own merit. James and his staff do incredible work, as evidenced by the huge banners at the Plaster and Friends Celebrity Bowling Night. If you're looking for quality to help your marketing and business communications, and you want it at a reasonable price, these are your folks. Call them at 615-832-9511 or go to print at sirspeedymusiccity.com. And be sure to tell them Plaz sent you. Welcome to John English Antique Sports and Cards, located at 204 East Depot Street in beautiful downtown Shelbyville, Tennessee. Their phone number is area code 931-492-4304. John, obviously, I've been blown away by what I've seen at your place. I've now been there 3 times. But for the person who's never been, what should they expect?
Well, we have a 3,000 square foot store, George. Half of it is vintage cards in all sports. And then half of the store is, a lot of people call it the museum, where there's a lot of early equipment and just the history of sports in general. Baseball, football, basketball, golf, tennis, and other items.
When somebody comes in there that you know is a big sports fan, what is their normal reaction?
Well, I think that they're pleasantly surprised. And, of course, being in Shelbyville, Tennessee, which is a small town that you would never expect a shop like we have to be in. So they're kind of, I don't want to say blown away, but as I said, pleasantly surprised.
We need a bounce back. It's almost time for Stat of the Day, brought to you by John English Antique Sports and Cards in Shelbyville, Tennessee. You can find them at 204 East Depot Street, Tuesday through Friday during the week, noon to 5, and Saturdays from 10 a.m. to 5. Give them a call at 931-492-4304. That's 931-492-4304. All right, let's take a look at what Michael's got for us today. We're sticking in the NFL. The Philadelphia Eagles are the first team since when to allow 7 points or fewer in consecutive playoff games. Which year and team was it?
Okay, Watson, the easy one would be to say the Bears, who basically throttled both the Giants and the Rams. I guess the question I've got is it later than that?
It's got to be later than that, I think. That's a lot. That was in the mid 80s.
Yeah, 85.
It's got to be.
Does
later
it?
than that. So who were the good defenses?
Giants under Bill Parcells.
And that's still a ways back.
Yeah. The Ravens, they went to Oakland and won. But the Titans scored in double digits in that game that they lost. I don't think it's the Ravens. I'll be honest.
This one's
Watson,
a toughie.
I think I've got it.
Who?
I think it's the 85 Bears.
What did the Rams do last year?
San Fran almost beat them.
Yeah.
The game before that.
Was it the Bucks before that one?
Yes, and that was 30-27.
Yeah, so that's not them.
This is a tough one. I know this is a tough one. But you're right around it.
Mm-hmm. Right around it.
Mm-hmm.
Uh-huh. Watson?
How about the Seahawks when that defense was brutal? When they were really good.
San Fran almost beat them. It was a 23-20 game up in Seattle where
that was one of the years though. Now they were there for 2 or 3.
Yeah.
When that defense was rolling, they were good for a couple 3 years. Ooh.
I'm sticking with 85 Bears.
All right. Let's check out the final answer.
No.
You were right there.
We were right at it. We were right
on it.
Yeah, but wait a minute.
You're thinking just 1 year.
Won it all.
I don't think they ended up actually winning it all. Did they win it all, the 2000 Baltimore Ravens? I just know their first 2 games, they held them in 7 or less. Billy's fact-checking it here.
Oh, I don't think so.
This would be the first that I've got wrong, if it's wrong.
2000. They didn't win it. That was the Rams over the Titans, right?
So in their first 2 playoff games, they held them to 7 or less. Does that make sense?
It doesn't mean they had to win it. So
right.
Correct. Back-to-back games, they held opponents to 7 or less.
So 2001, the Ravens beat the Giants 34-7.
Right, but before that, they beat the Raiders and they beat the Titans.
Might need to do a little fact check here.
God help you if you're wrong.
Unmitigated.
Last time you thought I was wrong.
Well, you were only right by a technicality.
No, it was a very clear in the question. It's you trying to jump me.
Many of your questions are confusing.
Listen, you got to come up with one of these a day. It's a little difficult.
You know what?
George, did you get the news?
No, what is the news?
Taylor's not able to hop on today.
Really?
Unfortunately.
Okay, well.
But we've got everything loaded, ready to go. Talking some college hoops if you'd like to.
George, I'd say that we were right about North Carolina. I found theirs. We need to look up all the ACC, who the opponents are. But North Carolina's got NC State, Duke, and Virginia. I knew NC State and Virginia and Duke would be there. That's been rivals for a long time.
Okay, this got a lot of attention when we started talking it. So let me try a couple of things here. The ACC, if you're just joining us, the ACC announced that that they're going to go to, I think, what they call a 3-3-5 kind of deal, where each school will have 3 permanent opponents, and then the rest of them, they'll play twice in a 4-year period. So I asked the question, what does this do to the SEC? And this got a ton of talk started and a ton of people listening and watching. Watson, when do you think ultimately the SEC makes this decision?
I think everything's going to be quicker than they think. I believe Oklahoma and Texas are a year away. I think after next year, there's going to be the jump, and in 24, they very well could be playing. I know a lot of people, that's sure not been popped out. I just got the feeling from talking around that that's what they're working toward, that Big 12 will be ready to move on. Oklahoma and Texas can play them and take off. I just think we're a year away, which would tell me then we're a year away from this schedule taking place. So the ACC may beat it by a year, and I think that Southern Cal and UCLA will be quicker too. The quicker, the better. But and when does the playoff start? Not this year, not this coming year, but the year after, right?
Is that right? Is it start in 2025?
5?
Is it 5 or 4? That's
well,
what I'm
not
sure.
4. They haven't announced yet, but 4 is the earliest.
I think it's 4, guys. I think it's 2 years away.
Wow.
Which would tell me these conferences are going to try to be in line when this thing starts. That's what I think.
When
now,
does OU Texas go?
I may
to the
eat my
SEC?
words on that, but that's what I just think they're going to try to put everything in place in 24.
Michael,
if it is 24.
To answer the question, Texas and Oklahoma, it sounds like won out. So far, they have not reached agreement with the Big 12 on when it is they're going. Everybody believes that they're coming in to the SEC early.
Okay.
Yeah, if the deal to leave early is consummated, it would be July 1st, 2024.
That's what I think will happen.
Okay.
And pretty much Southern Cal and UCLA have gotten their piece worked out. We all saw where they're going to have to probably pay California money out of what they're making to be able to pull this off in a transition way, because the board runs UCLA. I know UCLA is maybe not Southern Cal, but UCLA has to pay the University of California money to do this. I just think it's all going to be in place in 2024. And look it up, Billy, if you can. I'm pretty sure they're wanting to start the playoffs in 2024, that 12-team playoff in 2024. I didn't think it was 25. I thought it was 24.
Yeah, 2024, 25 season. Yep.
Yep.
People are ready for it.
Look out, boys. We'll have fun next year if all this goes down.
Not only do I think people are ready for it, I think the networks are ready for it.
Yeah.
And the scenery of college football is ready. The landscape, that NIL portal, it is ready for a 12-team playoff. I mean, it's like we could be there now. Now, it might get a little crazy, but it's going to get crazy either way. I mean, it already is the Wild West. So it's almost like we could have had a 12-team playoff this year, and it would have been pretty damn good and competitive, at least I think. Georgia probably would have still won. But we looked at the matchups, George. Remember, we looked at those? I mean, that's what it would look like.
By the way, Georgia just scored again. And this was the backup quarterback because Stetson Bennett had been suspended.
Ooh.
Oh, yeah. He needs a little wake-up call.
Yeah, George, this one might have given him one.
Yeah, it might have.
You're knocking on strangers' doors. And it's not real good. And you're out of state in a jail. That's not real good.
Hey, Dad, need you to come get me.
Dad, oh, by the way, I'm in Dallas.
Dallas.
I need a little.
You got to wonder how will that affect his draft process.
I don't know. It'll make for some interesting interviews in the
combine.
combine.
Going to get drafted?
He'll get drafted.
Mel Kiper's seeing him in the third round.
Yeah,
it didn't affect Baker. Baker had an old public intoxication.
When we get time, George, I would like to bring up Hendon Hooker and get your all's opinion on
it.
I don't know if you want to do it now or later.
No, go ahead. What the heck?
Where is he going to fall? He had one heck of a year, man, but now he's got a bad knee. Do these guys can't really work him out? Do they think it was system, or do they think it's Hendon? Because I think he's going to be a heck of a player wherever he goes. I do. I think some of those throws I saw him make and the way he slid in pockets and scrambled for big first downs, he's kind of the going guy now of what these teams are looking for. A little short, but he's taller than Bryce Young.
Sure.
He's taller than Bryce Young, and he's 6'2", and Bryce, they're measuring at 5'11", guys. That's what I've heard.
Pro Football Focus doesn't see Hooker being drafted until day 3, round 4 to 7.
Is that going to be the case? Did that knee injury do that much to him, or is the system going to hold him back?
That's what I was going to ask, Watson.
Gosh, how many times have we heard that, George and Michael and Billy? Well, he's just in a system that's quarterback friendly. I don't know if that's fair.
What was Mahomes in at Texas Tech? If that's, I mean,
at Virginia Tech. Well, you're talking about with Mahomes at Texas Tech.
I'm just saying the NFL has adapted a bunch and has to continue to adapt. If you want to make a quarterback work, you fit the offense around what the quarterback does. And, that's anyway. Watson, I've wanted to ask you this a couple days, and it is on Mahomes a little bit. What do you feel like Andy Reid has been able to do with Patrick Mahomes that Cliff Kingsbury couldn't fully bring out? I know that their defense at Texas Tech was terrible, but just, I mean, what has he done with Mahomes that's elevated him to where he's even at?
Creativity. The Texas Tech offense, the Hal Mummy, Mike Leach offense, is built off of fundamentals and reps. You take certain plays and you go out there and you run them against every coverage, and the receiver does this and the quarterback throws here. And it's a system that is, but it's not real creative. It's rep oriented. We will out execute you with a good player. And I think creativity in Kansas City, where he does it off of runs. Patrick didn't do it off of hardly any runs. It was pass, then run a draw. Pass, and then run a zone. That's not enough. Pass, then run a run.
Yeah.
I mean, so it's a complete different style to me, Michael. And what the Chiefs do to me is they don't put their quarterback in a lot of bad situations, but Texas Tech believed it in a different way by saying, I don't care what you do, we'll out-execute you. And I think Kansas City does it by fooling you with their fakes and their motions and all of that. The other thing that is different, Michael, in the NFL that I think these coaches have to deal with, in college football, it's zone first, man second. 100% zone first, man second. In NFL, it's man first, zone second. So a lot of the friendly throws in college are not friendly throws in the NFL because there's a guy bumping him right up in his face.
Gotcha.
And so I think that's the hard thing to understand, the big difference and the disguise and how quickly you got to get rid of the ball in the NFL compared to college. It's unbelievable how much quicker you get rid of the ball. Joe Burrow for all my career, I had a whistle in my mouth a lot of times in practice on pass skills, Michael. You've been in 1,000 of them. And I've got my stopwatch. And if the ball wasn't gone in 2.5 seconds, I blew a whistle. Sack. Sack. Well, Joe Burrow is throwing in 2.5. He averaged 2.5 in the NFL this year. College guys don't average 2.5.
No.
My guys who I harped it still didn't average 2.5. It's just a different world. The speed is different. The route running you get to 15 yards a lot quicker in the NFL than you get to 15 yards in college. In college, you can bang the heck out of him all the way down the field. In the NFL, you touch him for 5 yards, you got to let him go. So the game just speeds up in the NFL. So I think just the creativity that Andy Reid has done with him. But it's still, I said it yesterday, it's still a college offense. He's running a college offense, but yet he puts more of a pro mentality to a college offense. We're going to see two college offenses play each other in the Super Bowl. You're right. But the quarterbacks that are coming out are these kind of guys now. You don't see the drop back guy near the same that you did. And Joe Burrow was that. Herbert, it was that. But both of them got great feet, Michael. They both can still run really, really well. And the rest of these guys, Murray, Mahomes, Zach, Prescott, you can go through nearly every team.
Yeah.
Well, what was Ryan Tannehill? A receiver.
Yeah.
He was a receiver at Texas A&M before he became late in his career, went back and played quarterback. So all these guys have got feet. And so all these offenses are changing. You hit it. You're right. They're changing the offense to fit these quarterbacks when they draft them. They got to, because they can't do the old pro style drop back with Murray or those kind of guys. That's not what they are.
Yeah.
So Watson, let's go back to the question that you asked earlier about Hendon Hooker. And I guess maybe I feel like I've got the answer, but we all feel like when we put this stuff out that we've got the answer. I'm not buying this 6th round stuff, and here's the reason I'm not. Because there aren't enough good quarterbacks to go around. Okay, we've got some guy, Tyler Huntley, for God's sakes, is in the Pro Bowl.
Yeah.
You know, who was next? Mike Glennon?
Josh Dobbs.
Yeah, I mean, it's so you've got teams looking for quarterbacks, and not all of them are going to be able to get one in the first round. And so they're all going to go back to the drawing board between the first and the second day and say, okay, we didn't think we were going to get one of the 3 or 4. Now we got to get creative. I'm assuming that Hooker, even though he won't be able to perform, show him anything, wouldn't he go to the combine?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, and that should
he's
help
at the
him.
Senior Bowl. He's one of the few they've ever let go to the Senior Bowl this week and not be a participant. They don't usually do that, and they let Hendon Hooker come because of the year that he had. I think you're dead on it, George. That's what I was going to throw out. I think these teams that are looking for a quarterback down the road will take him somewhere in that third or fourth. They've got one now that's a good player, and they can bring him in, get him completely well, let him go, and then a year from now he really jumps into it, and 2 or 3 years from now he's their next starter. I think that's the perfect team for Hendon Hooker. I think he's going to be a really good pro. Some of those throws, Tennessee makes their fade routes the hardest throw in college football because they've got those big splits. Michael, I always taught my receivers, you give my guy 6 yards from the boundary to throw you the ball. Don't you work your way to the boundary. Give him 6 yards on these fade routes. Tennessee starts the guy a yard to 2 yards from the boundary and runs straight up the field. So there's not much room to throw those fade routes into. And yet Hendon Hooker threw them just beautifully all year long. I think he's going to be a good pro player. And I'll bet you're not going to hear much said about him because they don't want to tell everybody else what they really think about him. He's going to kind of disappear for a while. And then, George, somebody all of a sudden around round 3, maybe as late as round 4, takes Hendon Hooker.
George, you said it.
We've got – go ahead.
You said it. One more thing on Hooker. You said it when his injury went down. Something good is going to come of this. His career is not over. I mean, I got a good feeling he's going to play good football down the road somewhere.
Hope so for him.
Yeah.
Seems like a great young man. What do you got?
He deserves it. Real quick here, George, breaking news. The Saints and the Broncos are finalizing compensation in return for Super Bowl winning head coach Sean Payton. This clears way for Payton to sign with the Broncos to become Denver's next head coach.
Wow. I wonder what the compensation was. What do you think it was?
Ooh, I think it's high.
Hefty.
First round pick, and they'll throw in Jim Harbaugh. So what
the question becomes?
So what was the second meeting about? Did I hear you correct the first time that you're not coming here? What was the second meeting?
Well, and the reason is what I think that's made it turn around. He gave the reason that he didn't feel like he could work with one of the new owners, that he'd want to stick his nose in it too much and blah, blah, blah. And I'll bet you that new owner got him back, talked to him, said, I ain't going to do that. I'll leave you alone. Come on, we need you bad. I promise you I'm not going to do that. And that's probably what's changed this. Other than maybe Sean still thought he might get some of these others. I think everybody else just washed their hands of him because of too much to give up. Not that he's not a great coach. It's just too much to give up.
I think a lot of this has, and I said it last week, I think a lot of it is Denver felt like with what they've given Russell Wilson and what they gave up for him, they could not mess this one up. Then they probably felt the pressure. You couldn't bring in another guy that was a dud like Hackett was. They had to get this one right, and they had to figure out, is Russell Wilson fixable? And they brought in, to their credit, and I'm sure they gave up a lot for him, but they brought in the one guy that everyone would say, if there's anyone that could fix it, it's Sean Payton.
Or do they decide to draft somebody?
I
think they have Russell Wilson locked up for too much to be able to do that.
Yeah, I mean, he's till death do them part.
They got to get him right, and they got the guy that if anyone's going to do it, it's him. So honestly, I mean, credit to Denver. You have to put your money where your mouth is. If you're going to fully invest in Russell Wilson, you got to bring a guy in like Sean Payton.
Yeah, and I don't disagree with you at all, Michael. But I'm not saying this in a negative way to Sean Payton, but my gosh, he worked with Drew Brees. I mean, he didn't make Drew Brees. Drew Brees was a good player when he went there, and he's had one of the best in the league to work with. And I'm not saying that Sean Payton can't work with a quarterback and change him, but he also had one of the best that's ever played the game that he coached his whole time with the Saints, the whole time he was there.
Right.
It's like Bill Belichick getting Tom Brady.
There it is.
Look at the difference now in Bill Belichick.
Denver's 2023 first-round pick and next year's second-round pick for Payton and a third.
Ooh.
Well,
they've got a good team. They've got good players, so they're not dead in the water.
Did I miss that, George?
Well, there's a second option that they threw out there.
Okay.
I didn't get a chance to see it, but here are a couple of things that strike me right off the bat. Number one it's either that Peyton believes in Russell Wilson and or he looked around, really wanted to get back and said the rest of this is a bunch of garbage. Denver's the only one worth talking about.
Maybe
One
both.
or the other.
Maybe both. Might be both.
It says a lot about.
He can straighten Russell Wilson out and give him some confidence, and it is by far the best job that was out there. It's not even close to those others. Not even close. Denver's one of the best jobs in the league, in my personal opinion.
I wish I could be a fly on the wall just to know if Dallas ever came across his mind. I just would love to know. I know he couldn't go there because Mike McCarthy's still there, but if there was ever any waiting there.
Or did they even consider him?
Or yeah, exactly. It'd just be really interesting. Probably we'll never know, but I'd love to know just kind of where both parties were at in that, Dallas and Sean Payton.
The victory over Tampa probably guaranteed it, but then a really close loss in San Francisco probably signaled to Payton, if I really want to get back in,
it's not Dallas.
The only one out there is Denver, because the rest of it's a bunch of junk.
Yeah, and I think Watson's right. Denver's not some bad job. I mean, it's tough to go win at Denver. That's a tough place to play, and they've got a great defense. Their defense is unbelievable. So, gosh, if he can get the offensive side of the ball right, they're going to be a really good football team.
Good for Denver. This is good stuff. Yeah. We'll go to the break. Obviously, we've had to shift gears a little bit with a hodgepodge of different things that are interesting. Doesn't mean it's a bad show. It just means we changed a little bit. Oh, by the way, Nick Saban had a few things to say to somebody about the NIL. We'll talk about that next.
How am I going to get to work? My car's totaled.
Scholar, our team is making a call right now. We'll get you a rental car. Don't worry.
That's a relief.
Call us 24/7. We're here. We're going to help.
Once the All-Star game is over, the Nashville Predators will have another of their college nights. Tuesday, February the 7th, Tennessee State University front and center stage when the Vegas Golden Knights come to town. Students, alumni, and fans are invited to celebrate. The College Night Series ticket package includes a Predator game ticket and a limited edition co-branded hat. Tickets can be purchased at NashvillePredators.com/college nights.
As the trusted premier custom home builder in Middle Tennessee, Donnelly Timmons has over 20 years of experience in the industry. Whether you're looking to build your dream home or renovate your current home, their team will ensure that every client and every remodel is unique, luxurious, and completed on time within budget. Founders Dustin Timmons and Joey Donnelly have over 25 years of construction experience in the Nashville area. Together, they have completed projects in Forest Hills, Oak Hill, Green Hills, Franklin, and Brentwood. Dustin and Joey believe that communication is the most important aspect of all construction projects. Therefore, they personally manage each project themselves and are involved in job site activities on a daily basis. Their commitment to quality and integrity has earned them an outstanding reputation among their clients. Contact them to set an appointment for a free consultation or to view some of their completed projects. Give them a call at 615-456-7983 or log on to DonnellyTimmons.com.
So if you're just joining us, go ahead and take that red thing off for a second.
Don't want to talk about the Tide Pride Club?
Out of there. out of there for just a second.
I've got a confession as well. Whenever we
okay, hold on just a second.
Yep, you bet.
So, if you're just joining us, the news has gotten out in the last 5 minutes that Denver and New Orleans have come up with something, and it looks like Sean Payton's going to Denver. Billy, you are acting like there's
George,
more.
the floodgates have opened. Another piece of news, former 49ers defensive coordinator D'Amico Ryans is headed to Houston.
Yeah.
That was something I think we expected with a lot of the rumors going around about that. But the Texans have their new head coach.
God bless him.
Work's getting done on a Tuesday.
Yeah.
Golly.
God bless him, because he's going to one dysfunctional organization.
Yeah.
That,
If you don't believe it, ask Lovie Smith and ask David Culley.
I was going to say, it takes some stones maybe for him to, after those two guys.
So, okay, Sean Payton going to Denver. Let's talk about that again for just a moment. Watson, the Saints don't come out of this half bad. This is a team that has a lot of needs, and all of a sudden they've got some pretty strong draft pick stuff because of this move.
Oh, the Saints are sitting pretty, man. This is nice. I mean, they're much better off with him going somewhere than him staying in the booth, because they would get nothing if he's an analyst or sitting in a studio somewhere. They get nothing now that he's taken a job. Boy, the Saints just are having a party right now. I'm telling you.
Do they use one of those number ones for a quarterback?
May. They think one's good enough. You know, that's another day, but how good are these quarterbacks coming out compared to some of these drafts we've had here recently? I'm not sure. How good are they? I'm not saying they're not, but I think that'd be a good topic for us to talk about sometime.
Okay. What was your deal over here?
Yeah, it's nothing to be proud of. I have done some fact checking, and the stat of the day question, they held 2 teams in the playoffs under 7 or less, but I don't believe it was consecutive. So shame on
good,
them.
Michael.
Buddy.
The guy to the left of you there, or to the right, I'm not sure how you're situated, but he will eat you up on this.
Oh, I know.
I see double secret probation.
Oh, don't think it will end today either, buddy.
Listen, I'd rather come clean.
Come up many times again.
We'll just have George come up with stat of the day now.
Oh, don't think you're in charge. I don't believe he's
gonna.
Good luck on that one.
After 35 years, I'm very capable. Believe me.
You are.
Yeah,
you are.
So let's get back to the important stuff. So, is Russell Wilson fixable, Watson?
I don't know. I told you that a few weeks back. He's slower when he moves around. He don't scramble the way he used to, and I didn't see his arm strength what I thought it used to be. That doesn't mean he's still not good enough, though. So, if let's see if Sean can. I don't think he'll fix him fundamentally. I think he'll fix him with a system. That's the way I think he'll fix him, and give him top throws that he'll get in there and see what his abilities still have, and he'll work that around him. Now, that's what I think Sean Payton's really good at. So if there's a way to fix him, Drew Brees in his last couple of years, we all said his arm strength wasn't what it used to be. And he still took them deep. They made it playoffs and were beating the Bucks most of the time. So let's hope he can fix him, because I really like Russell Wilson.
Sure.
I'd really like to see him have another couple of good years in the league.
Michael, when you watch him this past year, do you think he is in tip-top shape?
No. He played with but I can't tell if that's a confidence thing or if that's a health thing. He just played a step behind, it felt like. I didn't feel like he anticipated his throws well. I didn't feel like he moved in the pocket near as well as he used to be able to move in Seattle. It just felt like there was something that just there was not meshing. It wasn't meshing with his receivers. It wasn't meshing with just how Russell Wilson, plays. I mean, in Seattle, he just about put the team on his back every other year. I mean, he really never had great years with an offensive line and was running around, making plays. And I didn't see that this past year. It just felt off. And I don't know, George, if that's a connection between his receivers, if there was an anticipation that he was missing, if it was health. He definitely didn't look the same scrambling. It's going to be interesting. I'm very interested to see what week 1 Russell Wilson looks like with Sean Payton.
So, Watson, what I remember of Russell Wilson Seattle was that he had unbelievable freedom. He had the freedom to take a play that didn't look like it was going where it ought to go and do almost a John Elway and make something out of nothing. And the other thing I always thought was, not only did he have great improvisational, whatever that word is, skills to make something good happen, but he was also the best long ball thrower. He'd put that thing up to the moon in Seattle. He was a great long ball thrower. Do you honestly lose that in 1 year?
Well, I didn't think he played well at Seattle down the stretch either. And I think that's why the Seahawks let him go, is his style of play, his abilities couldn't do that anymore. But I think Sean Payton will not let him do that. That's not going to be what he gets to do under Sean Payton. It'll be a design, we're throwing here to here, move around in the pocket. Yeah, if you got to scramble. But he's going to settle him down and make him be, quote, a quarterback and not just a scrambling quarterback. And that's where I think he might still have a chance to be a good player, because I just know all the play action passes and the different things that Sean does, very similar in some style to the Chiefs, is kind of his style. And he's not going to let him do that stuff. That's not Sean's way of doing it. I think that'll help. I think that'll help Russell to settle in and play quarterback and not just run around all the time. But, George, you go back and watch tapes of him now in his last year at Seattle, maybe his last 2, but for sure his last one, he wasn't very good there either. He did not have a good year. And I really believe that's why Seattle let him go. But Sean wouldn't have taken this job if he doesn't think he can fix him. He wouldn't have done it.
So would we say that Sean Payton's biggest strength to me was just a feel for play calling that was, I thought, at the top of the class?
Yeah, that's a great point. I also felt like he did a great job of using the guys that he had in his offense to do what they do well. You look, Alvin Kamara has been good, but hasn't been the same since Sean Payton left. He kind of had that Mark Ingram, Alvin Kamara backfield, and they were both so versatile. He used them both to their strengths. Mark was more of a, run inside, get, in between the tackles, and he used Alvin really well. Michael Thomas, he really found a way. I mean, Michael Thomas really, for the most part, was just running a bunch of slants and doing amazing. I mean, he finds his guys' strengths and maximizes them. And so I think, George, that feel that you talk about is exactly right. And I also think his ability to use the weapons around him to do exactly what they're best at.
Well, that's why I just think he'll structure him. I don't think he will let him run around and do that. That's not his style. It wasn't with Drew Brees. Every once in a while, Drew was one of those slide in the pocket, make throws. Short guy. He's used to teaching a guy how to throw between arms and sliding to see a little green area to throw into. And I think he thinks in his mind that he can make Russell Wilson a player. And I don't see him, guys, taking this job if he didn't think that, because he knows he's got to deal with Russell Wilson. He also knows he's got a winner that's won championships, and just like Drew Brees, when he walked in there, he was a winner. And so I think he knows that about Russell Wilson, and I don't think that's bothering him. I really don't. I don't think he takes this job if he'd have thought that.
Yeah. So for those of you who may just be joining us live, it looks like the Saints and the Denver Broncos have worked out draft compensation so that Sean Payton is going to be the next coach of the Denver Broncos. Now, the big question in Denver has been, can Sean Payton fix Russell Wilson? And clearly, Payton must think the answer is yes, or he probably wouldn't have taken the job. But Watson, what happens if he determines, I don't know, at the midway mark next year, Russell Wilson isn't fixable, then
I think
what?
Sean will go in and find him a solid backup. If it's not there, that's what he goes and gets. Through free agency, through the draft, whatever, Sean Payton will have, because he knows Russell Wilson is not long for what he's got left. And so one of the first things he's going to do is find me another guy. That's what I think he'll do.
By the way, his backup at the moment is Brett Rippon.
Yeah. I don't know, but I'll bet you if he thinks he's good enough, he'll go with him, but he'll fix that.
Yeah.
And Rippon has played pretty well.
I mean,
in the moments.
Does he go try to get a Jameis Winston, who he's worked with, as the backup?
Good. That's what I say. Free agency. He may go try to find a Ryan Tannehill, the guy that maybe has been a starter, but thinks he can bring him in and back up and then maybe be the starter still in a couple of years if Russell Wilson makes it that long.
Is Derek Carr an option in Denver?
He seems
I think they'd have to spend too much money.
Yeah, too expensive for a backup.
Too expensive to do that with.
So, Watson, let's say that this goes down the way we think it's going to, the way it's now being reported. And shortly into it, Sean Payton and Russell Wilson have to sit down and have a real heart-to-heart.
Mm-hmm.
How does that go?
Well, they're both winners. Russell Wilson's come out long before now and said, man, the guy we need here is Sean Payton. He publicly said that 3 weeks ago. And he said, that's the guy we need here right now. So Russell's going to have open arms. And Sean will be the same way with Russell. They'll have great respect for one another. And that's one of the pluses with this merge, I think, George, is the respect they'll have for each other.
This is going to be fun.
Yeah,
I'm kind of excited for the Broncos now.
The other jobs that were out there just didn't make sense for Sean Payton. I mean, we put that graphic up there last week. Carolina, Houston, it just didn't make sense for what Arizona. He was stepping into. Arizona, it would have been a headache.
We even kept saying the fact that Denver isn't even that great. It's the best out of these, but it's still not the best unless you think you can fix Russell Wilson.
First of all, it's an unbelievable fan base.
Absolutely.
With a rabid media following them around. I mean, they don't have quite the Dallas Cowboy national thing, but locally
on the West Coast,
man, they have got it going.
Let's look at it 2 ways. Go ahead, Watson.
What I hear everybody say, guys, is these owners they'll spend it.
Yeah.
They're going to spend the money to put it back together. And he's got a great defense sitting there.
Yeah.
He's got a really good defense sitting there right now. And all he's got to do is go fix the offense and hold on to these defensive guys, which I think they'll do.
Yeah, Watson, that's exactly what I was going to say. Is there's kind of 2 ways to look at it. The first is oh crap, what if he can't fix Russell Wilson? Well, then you feel like you're stuck, and that's obviously the worst case. The best case, their defense can compete with anybody's in the NFL. What they were doing this year with a really bad offense and the way they were still holding teams to so few points, they can compete with anybody. They can compete with the teams that are left in the Super Bowl from a defensive standpoint. Now, on offense, if Sean Payton says, okay, I got Russell Wilson, I can fix him, Cortland Sutton, Jerry Jeudy, I've got some weapons. If they get that right, I'm just saying there's the best, the upside and the ceiling is high if they can fix Russell Wilson. It's a big if, but it's not a bad job by any means. The fan base is incredible. So there's 2 ways to look at it for sure.
Well, and then I also think with free agency the way it is now and all these quarterbacks coming out, he's sitting there saying, well, if Russell's not it this year, I'll get one next. I'll get one of these free agents coming out. These guys are willing to spend the money, and I'll get one. So I don't think it's as big a I think he would have taken it from day one if he didn't have this owner situation that scared him to death. And I think he played the power play. He publicly said it. And I promise you, this guy came back to him and said, okay, let's talk this out here. What do you want me to do? What can I tell you to get you here? I think that happened, guys. I do.
Well, God knows they paid enough for this team.
Well, they've proved they wanted him really bad.
Yeah. So, I mean, they paid over $4 billion.
Wow.
For the Broncos.
Yeah, I know.
Way more than anybody else has paid.
They put all their chips in.
Ooh, and they got incredible disappointment early.
Mm-hmm.
And whether it's fair or not fair, Nathaniel Hackett looked overmatched. And this guy's not going to look overmatched.
That's a generous way of putting it.
Yeah, but he's going to get the benefit of every doubt early on there.
Can I ask one more question?
Sure.
What do you think? Do you think there's any of the pressure? Do you think there's any more pressure? Do you feel like Russell Wilson won? He's a Super Bowl winner. That ain't going to get to him, and he already feels the pressure. But is there any added pressure with Sean Payton coming in, this idea of, okay, you better be right. If we're doing all this to get Sean Payton in, you better look a whole lot better than you did? Or do you feel like Russell's the type of competitor, he's already probably put all that on himself?
I think he's thinking the positive, Michael, 100%. Hey, get me a really good guy in here and I'll prove you what I can do.
Okay.
I think he's classy enough. He did not jump all over the last coach. He didn't do it. I respect that. But I think he knew this ain't going to work, and get me a good guy in here. And they've done it. And I think he'll be open arms on this and ready to roll. You know, his confidence level is still there, guys. I mean, it is. He still thinks he can do it.
Yeah.
I can see it when they talk to him. Russell Wilson still thinks he can do it.
Do you think he's in great shape?
Huh? Do
you think he's in great shape?
No, I didn't. And I think now maybe this will motivate him. It'll motivate him. And I think respectfully, Sean Payton can walk in and say, Russell, I want you in a lot better shape. I want you to lose 15 pounds, blah, blah, blah. And he'll go do it because he respects the guy asking him to do it.
Yeah.
So big moments in the NFL. Looks like the Saints in Denver have worked it out on Sean Payton. DeMeco Ryans is the new coach of the Houston Texans.
6-year deal.
For DeMeco?
Yep.
Well, isn't that interesting?
Long time.
So Watson, he basically said, I'm not putting up with your 1-year crap.
Well, he knows there's 2 rich guys still living in Houston right now. If it don't work, he'd be the 3rd one.
No kidding. We'll go to the break. Plaster bet of the day, if you're looking to get rich, is coming up next.
Hey, thank you for meeting with me today. The insurance company has made an offer.
Already? Wow.
They've offered you the entire policy.
Thank you, Blair.
You're so welcome.
Hockey in Music City just hits different. It's one big honky-tonk party. It's the sea of gold in the crowd. The goals, the saves, the celebrations. It's an experience like no other. Don't miss a minute of the action this season. Visit NashvillePredators.com/tickets to get your seats today. That's NashvillePredators.com/tickets. And we'll see you at Bridgestone Arena.
Forget the fact that Sir Speedy Music City is owned by my BGA classmate James Warren. Their work stands on its own merit. James and his staff do incredible work, as evidenced by the huge banners at the Plaster and Friends Celebrity Bowling Night. If you're looking for quality to help your marketing and business communications, and you want it at a reasonable price, these are your folks. Call them at 615-832-9511 or go to print at sirspeedymusiccity.com. And be sure to tell them Plaz sent you. Jody Jones has as nice a dental facility as you'll find anywhere. Let's go in and take a look. Are you in the market for a new dentist? Maybe you're new to Nashville? Well, the place to go is Jody Jones Dentistry at 55 Music Square East. And their new facility is absolutely state-of-the-art. Jody mixes quality with comfort for the perfect dental experience. He's trusted for his creative design and committed to both the function and aesthetics of your smile. Jody is simply the total package. Don't wait. Make an appointment now at 615-259-5100.
Welcome back in. Final segment on this Tuesday afternoon. Plaster's bet of the day. See if he can keep it rolling after last night's win is coming up. It's sponsored by Bart Durham Injury Law. They are lawyers that you can trust. Give them a call at 615-242-9000 or log on to bartdurham.com. George, you got to stay hot. Big chance here tonight. Of course, you got a lot of college hoops action. Did you watch all the Texas game last night? It was a pretty good one.
I fell asleep.
Really?
Yeah.
You woke up?
I said to myself,
George,
you were that confident.
I said to myself, Baylor.
that's a load of bull.
What?
That you just assumed Baylor was going to roll down and die. Like they're
okay. They're not a great shooting team.
Ugh.
And
Don't act like there was just this confidence that they were playing Midwestern State.
All I can tell you is I fell asleep and I wasn't
Baptist.
worried about it.
Yeah, they were playing Washita. Whatever.
Move on. I can't worry about what's your name?
Hook 'em.
Little boy in the corner.
Okay. Where are we going?
You tell me, George.
Well, we're going to a winner.
There's that air of confidence.
You're darn tooting there is. Watson, TCU's going to bounce back tonight, even though they don't have the kid Miles, who is a really good player. West Virginia, they expended a lot of emotional energy on Saturday to beat Auburn. They won't play with nearly the zip for this road trip. TCU wins and covers. Book it.
Watson,
Audio.
Watson, you're muted.
I'll say this.
I'm sorry. I muted myself because I was afraid I might say something that I didn't want to say to George.
Look at production, Watson. I like it.
George, TCU's been the bet of the year so far. I think you've taken them 3 or 4 times.
I have taken them several times.
Yeah.
I got on their bandwagon when they ripped up Baylor in Waco.
Didn't West Virginia beat whoever they played in the SEC on Sunday?
Yeah, Auburn.
They beat
Auburn.
Yeah.
It was at West Virginia.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Which is a great home advantage. They put
yeah.
about 15,000, and they got a guy down on the sideline with a musket.
Yeah.
That scares the visitor.
You got Bob Huggins sitting on his stool.
Right.
Yeah.
So, Watson, we're going to win tonight.
I agree. I think
Do
this
you
is a
really?
good one. Yeah,
Okay.
I do. That's
Good.
a kiss of death for you, but I do. So
Could be.
could be a kiss of death.
You didn't want to touch Kansas K-State at all?
No.
Did you see what that line was?
Yeah, 6.5, 7.
That's a tough one.
That's a big game for K-State. It's been
That's
a long
at
time.
Kansas, right?
Yeah.
And
It's
it's
been
been-
a long time since they have swept Kansas.
Yeah, and K-State showed out after they beat them at home. So
Mhm.
you're
didn't
going
wanna
to catch
take-
Kansas's best tonight.
Yeah.
I'm telling
didn't
you.
wanna
I'll
take,
take
Vandy.
Kansas in this one myself.
You didn't want to take Vandy plus 15.5 against Alabama?
They may cover,
Maybe.
maybe.
There's more excitement with TCU.
Look, I'm into winning.
Vanderbilt. That doesn't get you there.
TCU's going to win.
I like it.
I feel good about it.
I like it.
Tomorrow, Mark McGee's going to join us. We'll talk a little bit about what the Predators are doing during this off time. What else we got tomorrow?
Tomorrow, Wednesday. What do we have?
Well, I'll tell you one thing we've got. We got chat room tomorrow.
Yeah.
We're going to reopen it. Rousing success on Monday.
We've got Bobby Haskins tomorrow, George. USC offensive lineman.
Yep. We're going to find out what it was like to play with a Heisman Trophy winner.
Boom.
And what was it like to play for Lincoln Riley?
Yeah. It's going to be fun.
Okay. Watson, behave until then.
I'll do my best.
Good looking shirt, by the way.
Go Cats.
See all of you tomorrow. Go Broncos.